within the DoD family itself. For example, the Marine Corps University in Quantico accepts Defense Force officers fully into their staff and command college. You can go through a tremendous training program there, both with continuing education or on campus if you're local, which naturally is a benefit to the Virginia Defense Force, but doesn't do New York or Tennessee much good. But it is a continuing education course in which they provide all the materials and everything you need to get your master's free to State Defense Force officers. Meanwhile, the U.S. Army War College won't accept us. And it's all based on just the total lack of direction in federal law of should you not. Should you accept a Pakistani officer for continuing training at the War College while not accepting a Virginia officer or a Texas officer? So it's all over the place. Physical standards right now are basically non-existent with the exception of Texas. Texas has a voluntary physical fitness ribbon in which the members are required to hit 50% of the National Guard standards on the Army physical fitness test. Rather than 60 as a minimum, they hit 50. You can see our recommendations in the State Defense Force standards are for 40% on the Army physical fitness test. But some basic assurance that the troops are able to provide physical service. And maybe we don't kick out everybody who can't provide it, but at least we know that this group is certified and able to be deployed for duty. These other folks maybe do office duties and clerical work, which is very much needed. So the standards are there, the recommendations are there. Saugus, the State Guard Association, holds their annual meeting week after next in Indianapolis, and hopefully they'll take some action on the standards there. But in the meanwhile, we have a tremendous opportunity in this Congress, and I can't think of any other opportunity to do anything on Homeland Security, with the political mix being what it is, with the House and Senate in one party's hands, the White House in another, and heading into a presidential election, which normally no one gets anything done politically in that environment. Here's one issue that truly is not just bipartisan, but is absolutely nonpartisan. If you look at the members that have supported Colonel Wilson's bill in the past, it's ranged from Joe Wilson, who's one of the most conservative members of the House on the Republican side, to Charles Rangel from New York, to congressmen on both sides of the aisle, both liberal and conservative, all over the country, because it is just a common sense idea. It's a way to get the average American re-involved in supporting America's military community. And there's one of the underlying reasons that Freedom Foundation supports it. When I was a kid, I'm 51 years old. When I was a kid and I would go to Grandma's house for Thanksgiving, every guy that sat around that table had served in the military at one point or another. They were World War II vets or World War I vets or currently serving or in Korea or whatever. The vast majority were veterans and had been a part of the military family at some time. 15 years ago, 80% of the members of Congress were veterans. Today, 20% of the members of Congress are veterans, and I think that's actually dropped a little bit. It's down around 18% now. All across the country, since we've gone to a volunteer military, there have been fewer and fewer Americans actually with a tie to the military family. And without that tie, they don't really know what's going on. Is the level of support for our military going to be there that it needs to be for the next century? As small as the current volunteer military is, and as selective as it has become in terms of physical qualifications, is this going to provide us with the link between the average working American out there and the military community that we need to have a secure country in the 21st century? Here's a chance for everybody to participate. One of our finest officers that we have in the Virginia Defense Force is an honors graduate of VMI who lost his eye in a training accident between his junior and senior year and can't serve in the military, but he can serve in the Virginia Defense Force. These are top qualified people. You can have a minor physical ailment, a minor physical problem, still serve, still do a fantastic job. As a matter of fact, half the things that we kick people out of the service for today, physical, they would have taken them in World War II. It wouldn't have been the problem that we have now. Here's an opportunity to serve. Here's an opportunity everyone can serve, particularly highly trained professionals such as private practice physicians and private practice attorneys. We have a lot of those guys, many of whom maybe got their degree with help from the military, that if you're going to be a standalone, hang out a shingle private practice physician, you really and truly can't serve in the National Guard. If you're deployed one time for a 12 or an 18-month deployment, you've lost your practice, whether you're a physician or an attorney. If you're part of a group, if you're a hospital employee, that's different. You can come back. But if you're a private practice, hang out a shingle guy, for that matter, hang out a shingle plumber or electrician, you're deployed one time and you've lost your business. A lot of those guys missed the camaraderie they had in the military. They missed once you're out a couple of years, you missed that. You want to come back, they would love to serve, and here's an opportunity. They can serve at the state level with limited deployments, that we take advantage of all those civilian skills and talents and get back some of the investment we put into their education if they did receive it through the military, and bring them back under service of their adjutant general. It is a win-win proposition for everyone involved, and there's no reason we could not have 400,000 to 500,000 troops. If we had 175,000 in World War II, we can have that number now. Imagine what that would do for U.S. Homeland Security to have that number of folks in reserve. For any of you who don't know how state defense forces work, across the country as a general standard, you drill once a month for one day rather than a weekend-long drill like the National Guard. It's usually an 8-hour drill, starts in the morning, winds up in the afternoon around 3 or 4. We have 2 field training exercises per year, but they're long weekend field training exercises rather than 2 weeks at a time. Therefore, professionals, people who work, they don't have to have the huge block of time away from their business. We are not paid for training or drill, zero. You're paid if you're called state active duty, and in Virginia we're currently paid the same DoD grade as military. There's a problem with that, and some of the states are addressing that. Texas started this last year. For Katrina, all of their personnel, when they were called state active duty, were paid $110 a day plus expenses, everybody from private to general. They just bumped that up in the Texas legislature to $123 to account for inflation. The problem they had is the problem we have in Virginia. If you actually call the Virginia Defense Force to state active duty, we have a higher cost per man for deployment than the National Guard proper. Reason is somewhere between 60 and 70% of our people are retired military, career military folks, so you've naturally got top-ranking NCOs, top-ranking lieutenant colonels and above, so you call them to state active duty and you've got an extraordinary cost of paying those kind of wages. Texas addressed that by saying, the guys, we're not doing it for the money. If we're going to be called to state active duty for 2 weeks, we need a little help there, but we're not trying to make this another career. So let's cut that and bump up what the lower enlisted ranks get for showing up. Yes.
What about reemployment rights or
it varies from state.
Those who take?
It varies from state to state. And that's one of the things that the standards and recommendations need to address. In Virginia, we have under state law the same employment rights as the Virginia National Guard proper, so that we can't be discriminated against in the workplace for being a member of the Defense Force. We're also covered under workman's compensation law for injuries or death during active service, and for duty for traveling to and from drill and doing drill. But in terms of reimbursement, Texas has moved to the per diems flat across the board, same pay for everybody from private to general. Most of the states still use the Virginia model, which is being paid standard DoD pay grade. It would probably be more effective to move to the Texas model nationwide to take away that financial disincentive to call up the State Defense Force if necessary. That's where we are. We're trying to support Colonel Wilson as much as we can with H.R. 826. And we're trying to support the states expanding and improving their defense forces as well. It's the most cost-effective way of having that additional reserve, and not just to support the National Guard, but as Colonel Brinkerhoff, our senior Homeland Security fellow, would say if he's here. Colonel Brinkerhoff is former assistant director of FEMA under Reagan. And during their disaster planning, they looked at what standard Homeland Security needs are, but they also looked at truly catastrophic Homeland Security events that could occur, far beyond what Katrina was. If we had another New Madrid earthquake, which I think probably everybody's at least vaguely familiar with that, in which it totally devastated the Mississippi River Valley and most of the country, we would need 700,000, 800,000 troops to adequately handle that. There's no way to fund that kind of troops in reserve through our National Guard or our reserve system now, with the strains on the federal budget that we already have with Social Security and Medicare and the deficit soaring out of control the way it is. State defense forces, we can do that. We get paid nothing while we're in reserve. We're only paid if we're called to state active duty. It's basically a military temp service. If you need them, you call them. Otherwise, you pay nothing. It's also, as many people have pointed out, the third leg of the American military. We have Title 10 forces under our regular military. Title 32 Title 10 forces under our National Guard that can go either way, and we pay them part-time while they're in backup. And this is strictly Title 32 service, that you're only paid if you're called to state active duty, and in the meanwhile your service is a volunteer. It returns us back to